Hi there folks, I hope everyone's well, hope you're all doing fine. So this recipe is how to make a seitan korma. It's not entirely vegan because the yoghurt I've used in this one is a dairy yoghurt. Now if you want, there's recipes out there for how to make yourself vegan yoghurts and you can have an entirely vegan dish on this one. But this one is almost vegan, it's veganish. Now, the seitan that's used in it, I'm not covering how to make that in this recipe. I've got a separate video on my channel for how to make my standard seitan. It's lovely with this, but if you want to make your own seitan, go ahead with a different recipe. Same with the boiled rice. I'm not covering in this video how to make boiled rice because I've got a separate video on that and the video would just be too long. This concentrates purely on how to make the korma. Now, this particular edit, I'm pitching this edit at people who are less inexperienced in the kitchen, so we're covering some of the stages in quite detail, and that way if you don't know your way around the kitchen, everything you need to do is in here to help you make this korma. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not a huge korma fan overall, but this one is yummy, 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 yummy. I like my curries a little bit more spicy, a little bit more kick than a korma, but it's still one we have quite a lot because it's really, really nice. So without further ado, let's crack on. Let's make a korma.
And so the very first thing we're looking to do is to measure out 50 grams of almonds. And then we want to bring a small pot of water to the boil so that we can blanch those almonds. Now you don't want them to be in the water any longer than 60 seconds. You don't want them in shorter than 60 seconds. You really want them to be as close to that minute as possible because we're not cooking them. All we're doing is blanching them so that it can remove the skins. Now add a couple of tablespoons of water from the pan which you're blanching your almonds in and add that to your mini chopper. So as soon as our time is up, take and drain them into a colander or a sieve over your sink. And then take and empty your drained almonds onto a chopping board or directly onto your work surface. And now we're going to take and we're going to remove the skins. It's an easy process, but be careful, they are hot. What we're looking to do is take the pointy end of the almond, put it in your fingers and give it a gentle squeeze. And that will de-skin them. The almond will come popping out of the skin. Just be careful that we're not shooting almonds all the way across the room, because I've done that. It might be a fun game, but you're ruining your food. And once the skin is removed, just take and place them straight into a mini chopper because we're going to chop these up, and straight into the mini chopper is the most sensible way of doing it. And once they're all de-skinned, just set the chopper aside for now and we'll come back to that when it's required. Next up, we're looking for garlic cloves. We're looking for 3 cloves, or we're looking for 3/4 of a block of frozen crushed garlic if you prefer to go that way. Either way, set the garlic aside in a small ramekin until required. And to the same ramekin, we're either going to add 1 block of frozen crushed ginger, or we're going to add 4 centimetres of root ginger. If you're going the root ginger route, take a spoon, scrape it along the ginger to remove the outer skin, and then finely chop it with your chef's knife. If, as you're doing here, using frozen ingredients, add them to your microwave and give them a quick blast for no longer than 30 seconds just to get them defrosting. We don't want to cook them, we're only defrosting them. Visually, as you see here, it's looking a bit softer, but you can see no signs of cooking. And we then want to take and add our whole garlic cloves and our ginger straight into the mini chopper that's already got the almonds in it. And whack on your mini chopper, your mini blender, and blend it until we've got a dry paste. And now we want to add between 3 and 5 tablespoons of boiled water. It varies depending on how dry the actual mixture has been so far, so that's why you go in first with the chopper and then add the water, and it becomes something you get used to seeing the sight of where it needs to be between the 3 and 5. But we're going to blend this until we've got quite a smooth paste, almost a liquid. And once reasonably smooth, we're going to remove that from our mini chopper and we're going to set it aside in a bowl until required. You can see the sort of consistency that we require as I empty it out of the chopper bowl. And next up we're going to require seitan. This is from my standard seitan recipe, which you can find on the site, or if you make your own seitan from another recipe, crack on and use that one. Mine's is nicely spiced and it really complements the korma, but if you don't want to give that a bash, run with your own. But we're going to chop this into bite-sized pieces. This had already been chopped somewhat. It needs to be in smaller pieces still for the korma. And once chopped to the appropriate bite-sized sort of pieces, we're going to store this in a dish until it's required as well. And next up we need 1 cannonball or 2 large onions. A cannonball onion is something that I saw my local Morrison's call the obscenely large onions that they were selling. If you can't get the obscenely large ones, the cannonballs, go with 2 large onions. So to prepare our onion, the first thing we do is remove the top of the onion, sit it on its flat side and then half it down its middle, and then we're going to peel the skin off. One of the downsides of cannonball onions is they've got so large that they could actually start being on to their next growth stage, so you can sometimes end up with little bits inside them that you just need to cut out, as you see me doing here. They're great for their size, that's the downside. So now we want to roughly chop our onion, and we do that, the first stage of the process is we chop towards the root end without actually chopping all the way through. So we're chopping all the way down, but not all the way back, so that there's still a segment attached. Then turn 90 degrees and chop downwards, and that gives us our rough chop. If you want a fine chop, you just make your spacing narrower. And from there, just add it to a bowl, and then you're going to cover it with a silicone liner to protect your eyes. And just to repeat the process of how to chop an onion but at a slightly faster speed, chop towards the root end without chopping through, then turn 90 degrees and chop downwards. Depending on the spacing, gives you whether you've got a fine chop or a rough chop. And again, into the bowl before protecting your eyes. Now you can use a cloth, a towel or a paper towel, but I actually like using these silicone liners. They stick to the bowl just slightly and they stop any fumes whatsoever coming out and getting that sting going on. Now, depending on how big a portion you want, this can serve between 3 and 6. I'm prepping rice here for 3, so 1 cup of basmati rice. If you want to know how to make perfect boiled rice, check out my other recipe. Because this is specifically about the korma, I'm not going to go through how to cook the rice here. If you need that information, seek out my how to make perfect boiled rice recipe also on the channel. And next up, we're looking to add 5 cardamom pods, 5 green cardamom pods to a small ramekin and set that aside. Then to a different ramekin, we're going to add 3 teaspoons of ground cumin. And to the same ramekin that's already got our cumin, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of table salt. And to a large bowl, we're going to add 250 millilitres, which is a UK cup size of natural yoghurt. And again, we're going to set that aside. Now, luckily enough, this particular vegan cream comes in 250mm portions straight from the shops. So we don't need to transfer it to anything, we just need to keep this aside until we require it. And now we're ready to crack on with our cooking. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to a wok or to a large sauteuse pan. A sauteuse pan is the one with the curved side here rather than a saute with the straight edges. And we then want to set our temperature to medium high. Once at temperature, we're going to add all of our chopped seitan and we're going to fry this for 6 to 7 minutes. Now, as we want to brown our seitan off evenly, do make sure to stir it occasionally. Don't need to be stirring it all the time, but make sure we're getting it flipped over a few times during the 6 to 7 minutes just to get an even browning all over. And we can now add our seitan back into the original tub that we had it in before we started cooking it for the 6 to 7 minutes. Try and leave as much of the oil as you can in the sauteuse pan because we're going to use that for the next stage. As you see there was quite a lot of oil left in the pan. We're now going to add our 5 cardamom pods and we're going to make sure we've got them sitting in the oil rather than dry cooking them on an area of the pan that might no longer have oil on them. And we're going to cook the cardamom pods for 2 minutes until they've opened up due to the high heat. Keeping the cardamom in the sauteuse pan, we're now going to add our onion and we're going to fry it for 5 minutes. And again, just like we did with the seitan, we're going to stir it occasionally. What we're looking for over the 5 minutes is for the onion to turn translucent and golden, edging in towards the brown as you see in the pan here. Once the onions are ready, we're going to turn the temperature down to medium-low, and then we're going to add our almond, garlic and ginger paste. Give everything a quick mix together. Then follow that up with our cumin and our salt. Give everything a stir together again. Visually, you're just going to have to get used to the look of this, but if it's looking too dry, which probably about 9 out of 10 times it does, we want to add 1 more tablespoon of water, and we're then going to cook this off for 5 minutes. And just like every previous stage with this dish, we're going to stir it periodically. We don't need to be on top of it all the time, but we do want to move it around a little bit to stop any sticking on the pan. Now, prior to using our yoghurt, just nip in with a fork and give it a wee stir together to make sure there's no separation before we go to use it. And we want to reduce the heat on our hob to medium-low, and then we're going to add the yoghurt 2 tablespoons at a time. And with our spatula, we want to mix everything together, and we're going to cook this until we can see the yoghurt has been visibly absorbed. And then we will repeat the process again with another 2 tablespoons of the yoghurt, and again mix it all together. Cook it until it's all been absorbed once more. And repeat this process until we run out of yoghurt. So there's our 3rd time, our 4th time, our 5th time, we're getting there, and our 6th and final time. Just between each stage, take your time, make sure that yoghurt's fully absorbed before we move on and we add the rest. For the last one, just go in with your cooking spatula and make sure you get all that yoghurt that might be stuck to your bowl into your dish. Give it a good stir together and then cook it until we can see it's nice and creamy and fully absorbed. As you see, the sauce should be quite thick and it should be quite creamy. And we can now return our seitan to the pan, turn the heat down to low and mix everything together. All we're doing is returning heat to the seitan, so we're going to cover this with a lid to trap the heat in, and we're going to cook it like that for 5 minutes. And we can now add our cream, vegan if you could, dairy if you must. We should all doing our little bit for the planet, and it's a simple, easy one, and it does the exact same job as a dairy one. But do which one you prefer. But we're going to add that, and we're going to mix everything together. We then want to get everything simmering, and once it's simmering, we're going to cook it for 8 to 9 minutes. And at risk of repeating myself, just like every other stage with this dish, periodically give it a stir to stop anything sticking to the bottom of your pan. And once our 8 to 9 minutes is up, we're going to remove it from the heat. And we're going to serve it on a bed of plain boiled rice. You could go for a flavoured rice, but the korma really works well with just the plain salted boiled rice. And to finish the dish off, we're going to give it a reasonable sprinkling of dried coriander leaf and toasted almond flakes as our garnish, to your taste. So there we go. Hopefully A, you can see me because of this big beam of light shooting into the room, and B, hopefully you can hear me because the dishwasher's running because I had a lot of dishes because I forgot to put it on earlier. So, as usual, my chaos at the end of the meal, but here we go, one lovely seitan korma. I'll come a bit closer to the camera and maybe that will help with the light and hopefully help with the noise as the microphone picks me up a bit closer. Now, when it comes to the garnish, I like to absolutely slather it in the toasted almond flakes. It makes a difference. It really just adds such an oomph to the meal. The coriander leaf, do it to your taste, but really slather on these toasted almonds. So almost a couple of flakes of rice in there, but the korma is the main thing we're here for.
really rich, really creamy, but really subtle flavour taste. There's hints of everything in there, but they're really subtle. It's a really nice, subtle, that's probably the best word, curry to make. I love it. Wife traditionally hates kormas. This recipe was borrowed from a traditional Indian korma and then made towards the vegan side with the seitan and with the vegan cream. Can't do much about the yoghurt, although you can make your own vegan yogurts, but it's vegan-ish and it's lovely. I absolutely recommend you to make it. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for all the comments, and you and your families, you stay safe out there. I'm off to enjoy my dinner. See ya.